Hello again. Welcome back. This is From the Ground Up. I am Carmen Milagro, your host, but I'm also a certified CBD educator. I am the author of Truths About Hemp CBD, a guidebook for curious folks. I'm also the founder of Divina Skincare and Botanicals, as well as the creator of Soothe, the premium hemp CBD post-workout muscle serum. But for those of you who also don't know, you're going to learn a little bit more about me today on this special webisode. I am also a lyricist and a singer, and I have a band called the Blue Moon Gypsies. And so some of my guests are also, it stands to reason, right, that some of my guests are going to be artists and musicians as well. So why is it that we're talking to so many different people? Well, because the question that we often ask on the show is health really the key to wealth? But we ask other questions too. What is your definition of wealth? Is it always about financial wealth, or do we talk about and dive into spiritual wealth, emotional wealth? For me personally, all of this is one package. So why not talk about it from different perspectives, from different guests, and then you decide what this means to you. So, I get to talk to doctors and artists, as I mentioned, but I also talk to real estate investors and authors, uh, investors. There's all kinds of different people in my life, and they come from all different walks of life. Now, today's special guest, he's one of my dearest friends on the planet, as well as my music coach and mentor. He's also my business partner, and he's a producer. He's a recording artist. His name is Tony Coleman, and his illustrious career includes playing with Otis Clay, Bobby Blue Bland, Johnny Taylor, Albert King, Albert Collins, Etta James, and so many others. Buddy Guy, but it also includes touring with Mr. BBKing and performing blues music around the globe for over 30 years with him. So I'm going to bring him on right now. He's been waiting in our virtual green room. Hey there, TC, Too Cool Coleman. How are you?
Good. What's up? You give me a virtual hug. You say, "What's up?"
Yeah, exactly. Back at you. How are you? Where are you? Where are you joining us from, TC?
I'm out in Oregon, Sheridan, Oregon, at home, and
Okay.
it's about an hour south of Portland, of course. So
Right.
it's quiet.
Yeah.
Calm.
Well, I never know when I'm going to get you. Sometimes you're in the recording studio. Sometimes I
I
see all
know.
the drums and all the gear and all the equipment. So, yeah, this is nice.
And that doing all of that stuff feels like natural, but like some people are. Don't you ever take a day off? No.
No, right? Well, I think there's a lot that entrepreneurs and musicians have in common, and I'm sure we'll dive into that. But,
Yeah.
for those people who are really curious about you, because this is about you today, I was wondering if you could sort of, give us a little bit of your background. I mean, a lot of people think that being a musician, that life is so glamorous, right? But
Yeah.
you were on the road for over 30 years with
Yeah.
Mr. BB King. Can you share some of the BB-isms that only you know how to convey to us, and just kind of tell us the reality about what touring life really is?
Well, what's really, that's a good question, because what's really interesting to me is when we arrive and we come on stage. Now that's the part of us that people see, the lights on us and us performing
Right.
and being happy and on stage focusing on playing the music the best of our ability and entertaining the public. So for BB, his whole attitude was, this isn't about you, this about the people.
Right.
So if you got a headache, a heartache, a toothache, you're not feeling well, uh, I need you to put that over there for now, but we got to give the people everything we got to give them. because we're here to make them feel good, and they don't want to hear your problems. They paid for us to lift them up.
Right.
And his attitude was like, after that, then we can have your problems, you know. But to be able to do a performance, a lot of times there's so much that had to happen in the back to get to that. For instance, okay, say for instance, you leave to start a tour. You get up early, you take your bags, you go to the airport, you sit on the plane, you get off the plane, you go to the hotel, you get checked in, you wait, then you got your schedule. And well, they have apps now. You don't have the itineraries like we used to have, but you look at the itinerary, then you put all your bags on the tour buses to go to where well, you're already there to perform, but you get yourself something to eat, get yourself adjusted for where you are, go do the sound check, go back to the hotel, come back and put on your live face and do the show. And then you're like, yeah, thank you. Then you go back, you know. Now that's going to happen for the next month, every day.
Every day.
So it's not like you're just sitting around having a few cocktails and relaxing and partying and all that. No, you can't do that and be in good shape for the concert, because with the artists like BBKing, but I'm like that, period. With an artist like BBKing, you got to stay focused and be healthy and be ready to go. So,
Right. Well, I mean, in essence, right? He's the CEO
yes,
of his band, of the business of being BBKing.
exactly.
So he has that expectation level. He's been clear with you what he expects, what he needs from you, and you agree to give that to him,
That's right.
right?
Of course. And you have to learn the person to make it work. He's not somebody that I don't want to be him personally, but I want to be like him as far as being focused and being just spot on. Knowing I gave all I could to do my job the best of my ability. And but he could be a piece of work.
What do you mean by that? Uh-oh.
Well, let's say he's no different than any other company or business. He has his brand, and he knows how to sell his brand. But he's not. It's not a false uh, projection. It's really who he is.
Right.
And now I have my own individual ideas about how things should go, but he's the one paying me so to be like he wants me to be. But now you have to realize, when you put the factor in that my dad and he were good friends, and my dad was in show business, King Coleman. Now, when you put that in the circle of working with him, that's like you're working with your dad. So we would get into like little verbiage, little sparring verbiage sometimes. Like, here's an example. I may be very outgoing. Imagine that.
I know. Shocking.
And I may be a little loud or whatever, and then over exuberant about stuff. And BB would be like, "Have a seat, son. I heard you over there in the restaurant. Don't you think you were a little loud over there? You could kind of keep it down a little bit, son. Everybody don't want to hear you talking, son. Now, it's all right to have fun, but just, think about the other people around you. Don't be too loud and too." "What do you mean I'm too loud?" "Well, I just told you I don't want you to be too loud, son. I just want you to be, a little more considerate of other people." "Well, we're just having fun," that kind of thing. Like a fun type of thing, not just an employer and an employee. It's more now he's getting like, I want you to be the way I want you to be.
Right.
That's going to trust what I'm telling you, because that's going to make you better.
Right.
So I would reject a lot of that sometimes.
Do you, so, I mean, that's really that relationship like a coach or a mentor, right?
Yeah.
And I think depending on where we are in our lives, meaning how old we are, we may not always appreciate that. But and we may challenge that sometimes. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, your coach, your mentor has already been through whatever it is that you think that you're doing. How did that, if you don't mind, like how did that relationship really affect you in the long run? I mean, he's no longer with us, and it's a huge loss to society and to the world.
yeah,
But do you find yourself, you know, reminiscing and repeating some of those lessons that he shared with you?
of course. Now, once again, based on him constantly coaching me to be a certain way, like I said, I rejected it. A, he let me go 5 times.
He fired you.
Let's say he fired me 5 times.
Okay. I'm just, being clear. I just want to make sure.
But it wasn't firing because I wasn't doing the job, because I
Right,
was late, or I was high or drunk or whatever. It was
right.
because I would always argue with him about how I perceived my life being with him, and he would say to me, "Well, if you don't like what son, I'm not going to pay you and argue with you, son. Now, if you don't like what I'm telling you, you can always go home." And I said, "Okay, all right, well, I'll see you. All right, bye." And then I go away for a minute, and of course we stay in touch. And then I go visit him, and he'd be like, "You ready to come back to work?" Like, "Yeah, I'm ready." So then I come back, but each time I would learn a little something different, and just go ahead and stop rejecting it, what he was saying, and just go ahead and try it and say, "Okay, I see what you're talking about," because hindsight is 2020.
Sure.
And now, and before he died, he actually told me, and I'm going to tell you something specifically that happened. But before he died, and I talked to him, he said, "Son, you wonder why I always just get on you all the time. Well, one day, I know you don't like it, but one day when I'm dead and gone, you're gonna say, 'Oh, B told me that,' and you'll appreciate it then, son." And I'm like, "Oh, man, I ain't thinking about that." And he's right. That's all I think about. It's like
Right.
he was right.
Of course.
He's
Well,
still there. He's
yeah.
still
He's
he's
still coaching you. He's still
yeah,
mentoring you.
because I see things clearly now. I can see clearly now. Okay. Uh, but for instance, like when it was different phases in my life. Like when you're on stage, you can become very self-centered and think the whole world revolves around you, and you start, sticking your chest out a little bit. And BB would let you know you should be a little more humble about this thing here, son. Like you ain't all of that now. That kind of thing. And he was always nice to people, even when he was tired, or he was never too tired to be nice, to be
Oh,
real. And just like we're talking right now, Carm, that's the way it. Well, you
I
met him.
know. I
He
know.
was
You allowed me to experience an evening of conversation with Mr. King, and it's something I'll never forget because he genuinely is like one of the nicest people that I've ever met. One of the kindest, wisest people that I've ever met.
and that was real. He was real. Thank
Yes.
you. But that's who he was. We'd be sitting in the airport sometimes, sitting at the gate, and he'd be over there on his laptop looking at stuff,
Uh-huh.
checking things out, and
Always learning. He was
yeah,
always learning,
always. Well,
wasn't he?
that was his main thing, to always learn something new. Never
I
stop learning.
remember that. I remember that.
Never stop learning something. He's like, you can always learn something from even somebody that you think you can't learn something from, even if it's something not to do. You can always learn something. But so he'd be on his laptop and someone recognize him and come over, excuse me, Mr. King, can I get your autograph? Sure. He doesn't just sign the autograph and say thank you. Now he's got to engage. So where are you from?
Right.
Were you headed over here to Cincinnati with us today? No, Mr. King, I just saw you. All right. Mr. King, can I get my friend? Then anyway, that it'd be before you know it, there's 40 people around. And I'd be sitting there like holding court like we are talking right now. And I'd be sitting over there looking like, really, man? So then we get on the plane and I happen to be sitting next to him or something. And I say, hey, I got a question for you. Yeah, what is it, son? Don't you get tired of doing that? Doesn't that get on your nerves when people come up here and just bombard you like that? Why would it get on my nerves? Those are my fans. If it wasn't for those people, son, we wouldn't be eating. You like to eat, don't you? I didn't look at you and tell you like to eat. You know, you always go do you know. So no, it's fine. Those are the people we work for. That's the reason we're who we are. They wouldn't know you at home. You want to stay at home? Let me know. You know. So the music was one thing, but that wasn't the only thing to make you become a great musician. The humility and the appreciation. You know, I never seen him mad on stage. You know, I've seen him mad at
At you, TC?
no, but it's something, and it wasn't just BB. All of those older musicians, they had that embedded in their mind and heart that they have to give the best of their ability. It's just you have to block out everything else, and you say, hey, if I'm on stage playing when I was younger, you know, and some nice looking young lady is out there like, yeah, and I'm like, and BB, it's like he had eyes behind the back of his. He could see somebody looking at me from the, you know, and he'd be like, stay focused with what we're doing. Forget that now, you know.
Well, but that's a sign of a true leader, right? First, it's you're presenting to your audience, you're giving to your customers, your clients, whatever it is that you're doing, you're giving them your all. You are doing this because in some way, shape, or form, you are helping them by giving joy or giving them a product that is going to help them. So I think that those leadership qualities between true artists, in my opinion, you're describing Mr. King and yourself, because I know you do the same. You give everything every time you're on stage. And to me, you're describing the attributes of a true artist, of someone who really wants to help another human being in one way, shape, or form. But what about yourself, though? Like how, here, 30 years, you were on the road, what, 50 weeks out of the year sometimes?
Yes.
30 weeks, 40 weeks. That's being on the road. How did you give back night after night? Was there something that you would do, say, yourself, that you learned to do to sort of find balance and get yourself centered before, like athletes do, there's sometimes there's rituals. Is there something like that you would practice before going on stage?
Being the drummer, first of all, if you're in a band and you got all these different musicians in the band, and the drum chair is the hot seat, because the drum seat is the CPU. It's the central processing unit. It's the heartbeat. It's
right.
So you got to be on all the time, physically, not just mentally, physically as well as mentally, and you got to be healthy and strong. And you have to you're basically holding it together for everybody on stage. So first of all, before I go on stage, I'm going to make sure I pre-checked everything like a pilot would do an airplane. Like before
Right.
showtime, I want to make sure everything's in place so I can play, because if I knock a cymbal down or if my snare something happens, I can't stop. I got to keep going, because the drums, anybody in the band can stop. The guitar player can turn around and do something, or horn players could look at their horn. Keyboard player can stop, but if the drums stop, everybody be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Right.
So you always have to know that it's pressure to know that you're responsible for holding it together for everybody, and and you have to embrace it, because a lot of times you can reject it because you see everybody else look like everybody else is just having fun, and you're back there in the back holding it together.
Sweating.
So mentally, that can be a problem for you mentally, for your ego, to think, look at everybody down front and they can walk around and wave and do all these things, but I got to keep, but I embrace it. It's almost like, yeah, it's because of me that they can do that. And so you just kind of like have to focus zen yourself into what you're doing. And a lot of times people would see me on stage, and when I play, like I look like I'm really stern, but I'm really just concentrating. I'm listening to everybody. I know everything that's happening on stage. I hear it and I see it.
Right. Yep.
I'm like a eagle. I see it all.
And you hear it all.
And I hear everybody's parts.
Right.
The lyrics, the music. So, and to be able to do that way, you have to not have fun, so to speak. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? It's like not you're having fun, but you have to be the one to know that in order for everybody to be able to do their best, it's because you have to stay focused and ready, and because the drums set is the pace setter of the music. Drums, of course, if you're an acoustic band, I don't particularly care for acoustic bands.
Okay, that's a whole other conversation. No, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's like you're really the heartbeat of the band. How do you fuel that? I mean, you're exhausted, right? You've been on the road for weeks on end. How do
Yeah.
you keep doing what you do? You
Well,
never give up.
you have to make sure you get the proper amount of sleep, and you have to stay away. You can't be a substance abuser. You can't over party or drink or whatever you do. You got to do everything in moderation, because uh, I've tried to play one time where I've had a little bit too much to drink when had an off night, and was going to sit in, and I was kind of tipsy, and then I'd sit there and I'd be like, and I knew it, and I was like, this feels awkward. No, I can't play right now. Thank you.
Right.
So you have to be clean and focused and clear. You
Yeah.
always have to be rested, because, like I said, it's physical.
Right. Sure.
So you don't want to be tired, and you just want to have a natural high, so to speak.
Right. Right.
That's what I like. Just having myself ready to go to work. It's a whole nother attitude. You kind of mentally and physically get yourself together and be focused.
I love how you have explained this, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what musicians, true artists, true musicians, professional musicians, there's a whole different persona that's displayed, but underneath it all, the greats have found this balance of having fun, portraying a certain vibe or a certain persona, but they can't really do that if they are not dedicated, if they're not, if they're not focused, if they wouldn't be the greats that they are. What are some of the other things that you personally think, that in order, like an up and coming musician who has this vision of being an icon or being being in the business for 30, 40, 50 years, what's your advice to that young upcoming musician who wants to be the next BB King or the next Tony Coleman? What
Well,
would you say they need?
yeah. Well, it's one word comes to mind when you ask me that question: consistency. Consistency.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, you can't. You have to be the best you can be, no matter what the gig is, where the gig is, who the gig is for. If you hired me to play in your backyard at your party, and you remember who you hired, when I come, I'm come to do the job the best of my ability. No different for the 50, 60 people in your party, or the 50,000 or 150,000 people. It doesn't make any difference. I'm still going to give that performance. Hey, sorry about your bad luck. You hired me. I don't have time to party and hang out, and I come to do my gig.
Right.
And I'm going to do it with the same attitude, professional, play my ass off. Excuse me, but the same every day. Doesn't matter. And you have to be consistent. You can't look at things and go, well, this isn't that important. It's not a major gig. You can't get to the big gig and go, yeah, I'm ready, if you weren't ready for the little gig.
Right.
So that attitude, it doesn't matter if you're riding down the highway in your car going to a gig with your equipment in the back, or you're in a tour bus or a private jet or a jet plane, or you got a big arena date. It doesn't matter. The way we perform is the same. And then in order to be consistent, it requires you to do those things. Make sure you're ready, you're prepared, and you are inspired and enthusiastic about it. It's because, like I said earlier, a lot of times in this business, with all of that adulation, oh, we love you. Can I have your autograph? Oh my God, can I take a selfie with you? Ooh, you can go like, oh, I'm really important. And you forget about, that's not what this is about. It's about, like BB said, taking care of making those people feel good. That's when I make others feel happy, I did my job.
That's
When,
yes.
when I when I see people after the show and come up and say, "Man, I really enjoyed you," I go, "Thank you. Thanks. I like that. It makes me feel good. I know I did my gig. I know I did a good job." And because you have to be consistent. You can't be one day smiling and then the next day you come back to that town and you're like, "Hey Tony, how you doing?" Yeah, whatever. Excuse me. You can't be that way. You have be real. Be real. Be real about who you are.
Exactly. No, I love everything that you're saying, because there is, in my mind, there is a correlation between being an entrepreneur and being an artist. Everything that you're saying, that you've just said about why are you doing what you're doing? And the audience or your clients feel whether or not you're authentically there for them. They know this inherently. That's what I see as far as part of the correlation. And I just, dedication, the perseverance, the self-confidence is wonderful, of course. It allows you to be Tony Coleman. But
Yeah.
I love this idea that you are touching on with also being humble, and you're doing this for them to feel good. And in turn, it fuels you. Now, I also remember something that you had mentioned to me not that long ago. It really touched my heart. It was a conversation another conversation, or maybe it was the same conversation that you had with Mr. King when he called you to his bedside when he wasn't feeling well, and I suspect, well, I'm sure he knew that it was time, and you shared with me something that he asked of you when he was on his deathbed, and it's fueled you to create and ask me to participate in this project. But can you share with us what he asked of you? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
I,
What
I
was his wish?
sorry.
What was his wish that he asked you to?
Well, he wanted me to make sure, don't let them forget me, son. Now, I taught you how to do it. Remember what we do, what we do. I want you to go out there and do it. Now, don't let them forget old B. I said, you don't have to worry about that. I'll never let them forget you. And that's exactly what I do. Like, I post things of us on YouTube. I post it. I tell these stories about my experiences with Mr. BBKing, my dad, my friend, my mentor, because he deserves to be recognized. He didn't ask for anything. He always gave. He was always a giving person, but he felt like he could make a difference by making everybody feel special, and that's what he was teaching me to do, and that's what I'm getting there. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, we are working on it. We're working on the business plan. We've got some ideas. We did a beta test here in San Francisco. This idea of sort of creating this project that's part education and part entertainment and storytelling, and the way that you share your heart and the way that you share your stories about all that time that you spent with Mr. BBKing. I mean, this is, we're putting together the business plan.
Yeah,
I'm a stickler for those kinds of things, and we're having fun doing it. But I think it's the backstory of not just your time with Mr. King, but all the other blues musicians.
all of them. It,
Right.
and every one of them had the same attitude. And today, now that they're gone, and we can run the list of all of them that I work with and know and recorded with and played with and toured with and all of that. But when you think about how many great things they did, they came from humble beginnings. They weren't born treated equal. They weren't born. They had a lot of people disrespecting them just as a human being, let alone as just who they were and what they did, and they still rose above it and still gave their best. And that's something hard to do. And over the years, I'm learning it. I'm getting it because because like if someone is disrespectful to anyone, the first thing you want to do is like just. But you just have to go. Excuse me. Excuse me. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't address me that way, and I won't address you that way. And can I help you? Instead of that's the way BB would do it. Instead of being Tony, go
Right. But it also speaks to their, not just their dignity and their
yes,
grace, but the power of music, the power
yes,
that music has to bridge cultures and bring people together. I mean,
yeah,
I know that what you and I are creating is something really special. And, I think there's this whole sort of new term for it, edutainment, which I love. It makes sense to me, right?
I-
Just like we are entrepreneurists.
of
So
course,
I love the messages and the stories that we need to bring to a younger generation. It's
yeah.
important that they hear it, that they experience it, and they'll be able to do that through you. So, we might have to bring you back once we get this off the ground, and
Well, I hope so.
right, once we start touring, and we want to
Yes,
start with colleges and church groups across the nation, and we'll keep everyone here on our audience posted on what we're doing, because
yes, of
it's
course.
it's you're able to take your experience of living and breathing and performing the blues and working with the blues greats, and we're going to translate, we're going to put it in this package for everyone to open up and enjoy, and i'm
Yeah,
i'm so excited about that. So
I
we
am. I'm excited because once again, it works. Those challenges that we have every day, we can control things based on how we approach it and deal with it personally. So to be able to control yourself in a way that's going to uplift someone is a great thing instead of bashing or
Right.
disrespecting. And, like I tell
Exactly.
everybody I love them. I say, I love you, man. I love you. I love you,
And
Carmen.
you mean it.
And
That's
that's
the thing.
and that's what I'm talking about. And it's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you weak to say I love you. And a lot of I love you. Yeah, yeah, man. I like you too. No, it's all right. Come on, you can say it. Say it. I love you.
Well, I love you, TC. I'm so happy that you were able to join us and share some
Thank
of
you. Thank you.
your
Thank you.
experiences and your stories. We're definitely you're gonna have to come back. But before we sign off today, because I know you've got phone calls to make and you're a producer and you're always working. But before we do that, before we sign off, how how can people connect with? I mean, I see you as the keeper of Mr. King's and the Blues Torch. You're the keeper of the stories, and
Yes.
we're going to get this out to the masses. But how
Yes.
can people connect with you? How can they experience your music? That I'm sure there's going to be some people watching us right now that are really intrigued and more curious than they
Well,
would have been.
what I plan on doing this year in 2022 is get more involved with social media and
Okay, good. Always
um,
learning.
yes, and you're going to help me with that too.
You're on. You got it.
And a
Anything
lot,
for you, my
and
friend.
basically, you'll be able to go online. You can reach me now. Of course, I'm on social media every day, like saying stuff. Hey, how you doing? And this is
So,
TC, and all of that.
right. That's right. So that's Facebook. I know that.
Yeah,
But do you have a website where people can also check
I
out?
just you can find Tony Coleman music, or just Google Tony Coleman, Tony TC Coleman, and it'll take you to where I'm at. I'm easy to find. So, and if you tap me and say hey, I'm gonna say hey back to you. But
Yes,
this
I
year, I'm going to get more into the Instagramming and
know.
tweeting,
Okay,
and I intend to have a podcast up this year at some point. And
great. Well, good. And then you'll come back here as well. So
all right, of course, I'll be.
thank you, Tony
Thank
TC
you.
Too Cool Coleman, for your time, for your
Thank you.
wisdom, for your willingness to share your stories, your experiences. I know, as I mentioned in the intro, you didn't just play with BBKing, but I think that's a wonderful place to start,
Oh,
sharing
absolutely.
those stories. And it was something that he asked of you. So I think that is part of the legacy. And thank you for including me. I'll
You
do whatever I can to help.
I know you will. Thank you for having me here with you.
Thank you, TC.
And
And thank you all for tuning in.
I was just going to say, and everybody check Carmen out too all the time.
Thank you, TC. Thank you, everyone. It's pretty much a wrap, and I hope that you will like and comment and share this video
Yeah,
chat that
I
we
will.
just had
I
with
will.
Mr. Tony Coleman, and you'll find us on Millionaire Flicks. You'll find us on YouTube, and he's going to come
Yes.
back. I often say that transformational success, it starts with the truth about who you are and your balance, and it's about your emotional, your creative, as well as your spiritual and financial, wealth. All of that is what we strive to help you understand and discover and learn what other people do to as they're going after their goals and they're achieving their greatness and their success. And if we can inspire you like we'd like to do, TC and I together, then that makes us happy too. That's what we get
Right.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's healthy to be happy.
Right. And I'm going to leave you with that note, everyone. Thank you, TC.
All right.
And thank you all for tuning in again. Like I said, this has been From the Ground Up. Today's special guest was Mr. Tony TC Coleman, Too Cool Coleman. And I hope you were inspired by his authenticity, his generosity. And we hope that you'll keep, keep us in your world, and make sure that you check out his website. Google Tony TC Coleman. You will see and you'll learn about this incredible musician who has toured the world and has spread joy and happiness through music, but also through his authentic self by being Tony Coleman. And I hope that you are able to continue on your journey as you develop your skills. You continue to learn more about how to change the world and do good in the world, and hopefully we've been able to inspire you. So this is always my pleasure. I am honored to be here with you. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on From the Ground Up. Thanks, everyone. Take care.